And the crowd did not like the decision of Corey Sandhagen going over John Lineker. The crowd did not like that one bit. That was really like the highlight. That was really the highlight of the crowd reaction. That felt like the peak of the show from a live event perspective. But I mean, there was Greg Hardy too. That whole debacle. But man, I got to meet some of the fighters. I got to meet what's his name, Kamaru Usman. And it was cool. Jorge Masvidal, Dustin Poirier, Nick Lentz, and who is Amanda Nunez's girlfriend? What is her name? Nina.
I cannot tell you, man.
Nina, I think her name.
Ansaroff. Nina Ansaroff.
Yes, met her
Okay,
too,
there you go.
and Joanna Double J.
Oh.
Yeah, it was cool, man. Jorge Masvidal had the line of the century when I asked him, is he ready to fight Ben Askren? He was like, well, I owe it to society to knock him the fuck out. That was really the highlight. That was the highlight of the meet and greets, man. Jorge Masvidal was too funny. Usman looked like he didn't really want to be there anymore. He had been out there for 2 hours in the hot sun, and he had a huge line still with it was already past his time. So I didn't really get to say anything to him. Joanna was tired as well, but Poirier was cool. Boring, typical Poirier, but nice guy, very nice guy. But I mean, what did you guys think of the fights? What was your reaction watching them, and more so the main event in particular?
Yeah, Legacy, why don't you start?
Good to go. Actually, my first thing when I talked to Luber about doing that fight companion thing was that this card was really overlooked. I think me and Luber both agreed on that. It was very overlooked, just because of Yoel Romero had to pull out, But when I started looking at it, that's when I hit Luber up. I was like, bro, this is a pretty good card. And Luber's like, hell yeah, it is, man. So we got on the ball and started watching it. The prelims were all right. And then I think once the John Lineker fight, though, it really started sparking. And we really both got into it. I thought it was an amazing card, honestly. I've heard a lot of hate about the card. I don't know where is that coming from.
Greg Hardy?
Greg,
yeah.
I mean,
That's
okay.
like 95% of the hate.
I mean, yeah, and me and Luber definitely had plenty of our conversations on that, but then we both kind of agree, stop talking about it. It ain't going to be there. But then the main event hit, and I was not surprised. A lot of people were surprised. Luber actually knew that my vote was on Jack, and I think Luber was the same way. But I think at least my picks, I know Luber's picks too, probably confused people on why are you going against fucking Jacare? And it's like, dude, Jack is a fucking beast, and he definitely proved it that night. And that main event was not a surprise to me, but to most people, it probably was.
Yeah, I think an excellent time to point out that I was 3-0 on my bets, contrary to the reputation that I seem to be acquiring. I think the main event might be a good place to start talking, because that fight, yeah, exactly. Jacare was a big favorite. Jack Hermanson, a lot of people even said, who is he? And even though he had just fought a few weeks ago, and we talked about him on this show, man, this kid is actually dynamite. He beat David Branch by submission. He tried that same guillotine against Jacare, and I was screaming at the screen, why? Why are you going to the ground with Jacare? But he messed him up on the ground. Obviously, top position, you get a great advantage there. So I'm not saying he's a better grappler than Jacare, but he beat Jacare on the ground, and that was as impressive as anything else, including almost starching him in the first round.
Oh, yeah, it was insane. And it was just and I was telling Luber, I think that man went out there to prove a point, and that's exactly what he did. And it was just ridiculous to watch. To see Jacare get taken down 3 times, I mean, when does that happen? And then while he was on top of him, there was no threat. I saw no threats for Jack on the ground, really. So it was just ridiculous.
Yeah, Jack Hermanson was really he was in control throughout the whole night, the whole fight rather. Sorry, and actually I believe it was the third round where Jacare kind of got back into the fight a little bit, right? So after the second round, people actually started leaving.
Oh no!
Oh,
right.
That
and then,
Brazilian crowd?
Yes. And then I think after the third round, people were like, "Oh shit, we got to come back." Jacare's into it. And then after the fourth round, people started leaving again. It was almost empty, damn near empty by the time the fifth round went on. I don't want to focus on how bad Jacare looked or how but I want to talk about how good Jack Hermanson looked. Do you think he's had it in him this whole time, or do you think it was like the fact that he had just fought recently and he was still fresh, like, or Jacare wasn't prepared for him? Like, what do you think it was that led Hermansson to such a dominant victory?
Yeah, Jacare, I wouldn't even say he looked bad. I mean, those body shots he was ripping were brutal. And then when somebody's eating those kind of body shots and still moving forward, like, that's obviously defensively, maybe there's something Jack Hermansson could have done about that, but like, just shows how tough he was. Like, he just ate it and like never seemed intimidated. And Jacare is, I think, maybe the most intimidating fighter in the world. Just the way he socks people down and the threat of his submission game. So just the size of his cojones alone. But yeah, in terms of has he been this good or is he improving? I think the state of MMA is still such a young sport, and we're seeing the training methods developing, and we're seeing young guys. I mean, this is the nature of sports in general. Is young guys are always going to be better than the generation before them. And I think Jack Hermansson's part of this new generation. And I think this is kind of the turning of the guard, maybe, in that we've had that middleweight class with Yoel, Weidman, Luke Rockhold, Jacare. They've been sitting at the top for a long time, and now we're seeing the younger kids really start to take over. And Jack's one of them, I think you got to say.
Yeah, and what do you think, Legacy?
I mean, I agree with that. I don't think it was just like a heat of the moment thing just because he fought. I mean, the dude in his last 6 fights before this, he only lost to Iago Santos, which we all know Santos is a fucking killer. I mean, other than that, he's beaten some damn good guys. So I think it was just people didn't know who he was.
I think it's also important to know, too, that fight was in Brazil as well. So that's tough to go into Brazil and defeat one of their own.
Exactly. That's like one of the worst places to go. Fight someone on home soil.
The worst.
The worst. But it was just like, I'm not surprised. I think this was just going to happen. And then once they handed him a top guy, he just proved that he is going to be a title contender very soon, if not already. So.
And the momentum. I think momentum really is a thing. And he had that great win over David Branch. While Jacare's been... I mean, he's been arguing with the UFC. Got a question, like, what does that do to your motivation? Obviously, I'm sure he trains hard, but when things start going wrong in the fight, it just almost seemed like this was Jack's night as soon as he started getting a rhythm going. And then, of course, that combination at the end of the first round, Jacare was out for a second. He fell flat on his face. So, yeah,
he even said it post-fight that he felt like that the ref was going to stop it.
Jack said that?
No, Jacare. Well, he didn't say he didn't say that specifically, but he was like, I was hurt, man. I didn't know how long I was going to be hanging in there for.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Jacare, he still is a very good fighter, like, not just very good, elite fighter. Middleweight right now is looking amazing with Izzy and Gastelum, that fight recently. So I hope Jacare has a good chance to come back here. I'm kind of curious what they're going to do with him as a roster fighter.
All right. And what do you guys think is next for Jack Hermansson? I mean, there's, like you said, the middleweight division is interesting. You've got Chris Weidman who's looming, Kelvin Gastelum, Yoel Romero. I mean, what do you guys think is next for him?
I honestly, now this might be too soon, but I want to see him either versus Chris Weidman. That'd be fun. Or let Kelvin relax a little bit, give him Kelvin. But the one I want to see the most, give him Jacare's opponent, give him Yoel. That's what I want to see. I'll be good if Gastelum or Weidman. Weidman's talking about going up to 205, so that might not be a thing. But I want to see Yoel versus Jack. That would be the true, is this kid for real or not? Of course, he proved it against Jacare, but we all know that Yoel is another piece of meat. So
yeah, definitely.
Do you guys know what injury Yoel Romero had? Did he disclose it?
I think it was like an infection of some sort.
Yes, I believe it was an infection.
Let me see if I can find it.
It was a sickness. So when I heard he got pulled out, I was like, oh no, PEDs again. But it wasn't that.
Yeah, it just says illness, like on MMA Junkie and ESPN Radio. All I can find is illness. I mean, not ESPN Radio, ESPN.com. All I can find is illness. Doesn't say.
Yeah, it makes me wonder with the change of opponent, maybe if he didn't want to fight Jacare on short notice, and fighters do that sometimes. They don't like the matchup that gets given to them, and they'll pull out on their own. Gustafsson, I think, had done that in the past. Yeah, I liked the Yoel Romero fight a lot, especially if he is going to be good to go soon. But I do think I heard some rumors about Jack Hermansson and Weidman basically agreeing that they should fight each other, showing mutual interest in that fight. So that's either one of those, I'm a happy camper. I'd love to see those fights.
Yeah, that would be big time. And I mean, what do you guys think is next for Jacare? Coming off this loss, like, you think we're gonna see him? I know he was talking like he was gonna retire, but then he turned around quickly. It was like, no, that's not gonna happen. So you think we'll see him maybe in like another year or so? He'll kind of rest up.
Yeah, it's tough because he was so frustrated with the UFC, and I think a lot of people will genuinely say like the UFC was screwing Jacare over. I personally don't see it that way. I think the UFC is not out to get fighters. I think it's just situational. Like, however it plays out, and not everyone's going to get a fair shake because of just random timing and things like that. But that, at his age, with that background and now coming off this loss, I hope he fights again. I hope he fights soon, but it's tough. What, match him up with Paulo Costa maybe? Like, there's that situation that could play out. I hope he gets a top tier opponent. I don't see him as the kind of guy that's going to move up to 205, even though there is a lot of potential there. He's huge, but he's not one of the bigger middleweights, and he fits in very well at 185. So hopefully just a top ranked guy there, maybe an up and comer, so you can give a little more shine to their name, kind of like this fight, where now everyone's talking about Jack Hermansson. That's the value of these well-known fighters that are, kind of on the tail end of their career.
No, exactly. And one thing that Jacare is now in a kind of situation, though, it's like he has lost to a guy who was ranked number 10. That never looks good, you know what I'm saying? So now Jacare is in this position, and it's like, who do you give him? Do you give him someone in the top 5? Well, he lost to Jack. He lost to Kelvin. Luke Rockhold's moving up. Yoel Romero, we don't know how that's going to go. That's probably going to get someone else. And then Izzy. So then he gives someone below him. Well, Chris Weidman, he's already beat. But Paul Acosta, Derek Brunson, and the guys below him, they're no smucks either. So Jacare's in this position. If he loses one more time, especially to someone who's a lower rank than him, it's going to probably really hurt his career. So I don't know who to give him. Honestly, right now I'm a little scared who they're going to give him. Like, if they give him Paul Acosta or something like that, I'm going to be like, fuck, Jacare, you better win this one. Because, like, he's kind of at a point where, don't get me wrong, he's still a hell of a guy, but if he loses another fight to someone lower than him, he might find himself in the gate guard position for a little bit, you know what I'm saying? So, and I hate to say that.
Well, worst comes to worst, he could just go to Bellator, and
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
Seems to be
I don't
the
know
route.
where he's at his contract, but
yeah, seems to be the route.
And in Bellator, you got Mousasi. That's a fight I'd like to. Have they fought before? I think they might have.
I'm not sure. I want to look real quick.
Yeah, but that's a fight. Even if they have fought before, I wouldn't mind seeing. So yeah, maybe it is a good situation. Or ONE FC, you know how they're trying to kind of put together a complete package. He could be a pretty good representative for them. So yeah, there's moves for him to make. He's 38 years old or something like that.
Yeah, I think he just turned 39.
Okay,
he's an old man. Yeah, in MMA years, he's been fighting for a long time, and just in combat sports in general.
Yeah, his submission, his jiu-jitsu career before that. I mean, you don't get the brain damage in jiu-jitsu, but they always are racking up injuries, shoulders, knees, neck, all that stuff. So, I'd love to see him get it paid before he goes out, whether it's the UFC or another organization. He's given us a lot. I don't think UFC Gold's in his future. I just don't see it. So, best case scenario for him, avoid a ton of damage, so maybe not the Paulo Costa fight because that's terrifying. And then make some money.
And so I want to talk about the co-main event. Our boy Greg Hardy got
do you have to put it that way?
Wait, what do you call it? Tomato can, right? That's what you call his a toss-up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Crushing cans, yeah, tomato can.
So I went over to the merch table looking at T-shirts, and I was like, oh, they had this lovely UFC Fort Lauderdale shirt, and I noticed Greg Hardy was on the back, so I told the lady, I'm like, can I get another one? Like, I get a different shirt? And she's like, why did you want this one? And I'm like, Greg Hardy's on the back. She's like, oh, I just know Conor McGregor. I don't know anything about this. I'm like, okay, yeah. Like, well, Greg Hardy, I'm like, Greg Hardy beats women. That's why we don't want him. And she's like, oh, I see. Yeah, we don't want him. We don't want that. So that was pretty funny. But, yeah, I think Dana White summed this up the best when he was like, who the fuck is that guy? who did that guy beat? What's his name? Dmitry Smolikov? Like, did you see that interview when Dana White said that? Did you guys see that?
Yeah, the post fight.
Yeah, he was like, who the fuck did he beat?
How he like basically claimed he didn't know anything about Dimitri, right? And I believe it, I really do. I think people think Dana White, UFC president, he has complete he's omnipotent when it comes to all the UFC affairs. I wouldn't be surprised if he just heard the guy's record and was like, all right, fine, I sign off on it. But yeah, he looked the part physically, right? The Dmitry guy, the Russian guy, he was very big, but it was a weird build. It almost looked like there's this old video of this Mexican boxer who had like fake muscle injections. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. It looked like weird fake muscles. Like, I don't know what was going on with him. Like, if he's just a bodybuilder and he never trains or what it is. But yeah, once he got in there, did he even throw a punch? It seemed like he just like was too scared to move and then eventually got hit.
That's the buzzword. He was scared, man. He did not. He looked intimidated by Greg Hardy.
He threw one strike the entire fight.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. That's just wow.
Well, let me ask you guys this though. Like, obviously, the other guy came off looking like a can. But do you think Greg Hardy looked good? I mean, I actually do. I really think he is. As much as I hate to say it and wish it wasn't the case, I think he is a legitimate heavyweight prospect with his size, speed, and power. And he's so young. Like, yeah, he did have that illegal knee, and he did gas out in the last fight previous to this one. But I think he just in a division where the physical attributes are so important, I think Greg Hardy might be relevant, and it sucks.
I honestly agree with that. Like, I remember watching the fight, and I was like, damn, Luber, he's actually moving a lot better than what he did in the last one. Like, he's moving good. He's got good head movement and everything. And it's just, the thing is, we forget too, he's an athlete. You know what I'm saying? He's used to learning these kind of things. He's used to picking things up. He did this all the time in football. So I honestly think that if Dana doesn't throw him to the Wolves right away, we're going to see Greg Hardy for a while. Like, don't throw him in there with, like, maybe throw him in there with Orlovsky. I honestly think Greg Hardy might beat Orlovsky just because of power alone. Orlovsky did look very good. But don't throw him in there in the top 10 yet. Don't give him a Derek Lewis. Don't give him a JDS. None of that crap yet. But I agree with Luber. I think if he plays his cards right, gets the right fights, and so he gets better, he might be actually a decent fighter in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, it's sad to say. You know, I mean,
I know.
And like, everyone deserves second chances. You know, like, I think we're not upset about Greg Hardy being on the UFC, in the UFC, or on this fight card, but it's just kind of like just nonsensical that this guy is in the co-main event. You know, from an MMA standpoint, I think we talked about it last week, right? That it's just like you got Mike Perry and Alex Oliveira. You know, you got Glover and Cutabella. So it's like there's other fights that should have been in the co-main. But yeah, overall, Greg Hardy did look good. And the crowd certainly did not like him, and they were, you know, they made it known. But yeah, so do you have anything else on this fight, or you want to talk about your boy Platinum now?
I'm so excited to talk about this Mike Perry fight. Let's move on. I'm ready.
Yes. So what was more entertaining, the fight or the pre-fight dance-off?
Mike Perry's got the moves, man. I don't know. I scored a 10-9 Mike Perry on the dance-off. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, the dance-off was really all the rage. That's like what seemed like what everybody was talking about, unfortunately, because the fight was damn good, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What was the I saw a video of like from the crowd of the dancing, and it sounded like they were popping off for Mike Perry. Was it going pretty crazy?
Yeah, it was going crazy, man. You know, like I said, Brazilian population, so when heavy Brazilian crowd, and they were dancing already for that song, and then people were just going nuts when Perry was breaking it down. It was pretty awesome. Like, I didn't even notice what was going on until like I started hearing everybody cheer, you know, and I was like, okay, Perry's doing his thing. Yeah, but I mean, he did his thing in the octagon too. What did you guys think of the fight?
Yeah, okay. Point to me, because when I play the UFC game, for those who don't know, I use Mike Perry a whole lot. I just think he's hilarious. Like, his personality has everything, but he backs it up with his fight style too. He brings exciting fights. Win or lose, he's throwing huge shots. I mean, those slams, both guys had those crazy slams. Alex Oliveira, like, I was almost sad when this fight got made, because Alex Oliveira is a very, very good fighter that a lot of people don't realize how good he is because he hasn't had that marquee win. So this fight it was back and forth, but I think what we saw is Mike Perry was smarter than he's ever been before. I've made this comment a few times. It's like at the end of the Wizard of Oz when the Scarecrow gets a brain, finally. That's all he ever wanted. That's all he needed. He finally got a brain, man. And I'm just excited to see what he does with it, because when you combine that power, that athleticism with, you know, he's improving aspects of his game that are bringing him into this package that I think is super dangerous. I still think he's going to be matchup dependent. He's going to need guys who are willing to trade with him, but he's smart enough to win decisions now, and he's going to knock some people out in the process. I loved every minute of that fight.
Yes, sir. And what did you think of your legacy?
Well, I agree with Luber. Honestly, I'm looking at their fight stats right now. Out of 120 strikes from him, Perry landed 75. Is that not the most fucking accurate we've ever seen Mike Perry? He is literally, and Joe Rogan said this a lot on his podcast, how you're seeing Perry turn to this wild brawler who doesn't give a fuck into a more technical brawler. You know what I'm saying? He's going to pick his shots, and me and Luber talked about it. It's like, this dude is like, he's like Ken Luber saying, he's got kind of the full package now. Now the whole camp thing when he was with Donald Cerrone, how he was moved to that camp, I don't like, that's probably not a good place for him to stay, but I think that was a big difference. Actually having a camp, actually having a big name camp, and having all those guys there, that probably made a difference. And I think we're seeing it trickle off into Mike Perry. And I think now he's taking this more seriously because he's like, oh, I could do this, this, and this if this is happening all together. So I think we're going to honestly see Mike Perry get better and better. The smarter he gets, like Lubris says, the more dangerous he's going to be. He was already dangerous because of his power, but now Mike Perry that's accurate and picks his shots, that's kind of a scary thought, honestly.
Yes, and he's no slouch on the mic either. And he was asked, what's next for you, and he was like, I want Darren Till. Are you guys intrigued by that matchup? I mean, it seems unlikely. It seems like a bit of a reach, but would you be intrigued or interested at all in that matchup?
I don't know if Luber still agrees with me, but I don't want to see him fight Darren Till yet. I don't want to see that yet. I think it'll be fun as hell to watch, but I think that is a rough fight for Mike Perry. But at the end of the day, I know Luber will be going crazy if his PMP shirt number 1, but I think that is a tough fight for Mike Perry. Don't get me wrong, Mike Perry's got a puncher's chance in that fight, 100%. We saw that Darren Till has a lot of holes and openings with the Jorge Masvidal fight. And I believe Mike Perry has knockout power to knock out Till. So actually, the more I'm thinking about it, the more intrigued I am by it. But it's still a scary thought because Darren Till is still a fucking gorilla. You know what I'm saying? So,
to quote a certain fighter, the MMA world is like a stock market, right? Fighters fall and decrease in value. I feel like Darren Till right now, his value is so much lower than his actual fighting ability. I still think if he fights Masvidal 10 times, I think he wins, 7 of them or whatever. Who can say for sure? But how that plays out might be a matchup thing. But Darren Till is still one of the very best welterweights. He's gigantic. And so it's a huge challenge. And if Mike Perry were to beat Darren Till, people would be like, Till's washed up. He's never been that good. He just got lucky against Wonder Boy, which is a ridiculous thing to say. But that's just how fans kind of naturally, without even maybe thinking about it a whole lot, tend to read those situations. And from the other side, if Darren Till were to lose, it'd probably be by getting hit in the face really hard, and that just happened to him. As young as he is, I'd rather see Darren Till fight somebody who's maybe more technical or more of a grappler, just to kind of give him more time, because he got knocked out about as hard as anyone we've seen. So if he's fighting again in the next few months, hopefully it's not Mike Perry, because Mike Perry hits very hard. I think that both guys, it's a good matchup in terms of they're exciting fighters. People know who they are. A win for either one of them is a good thing, but I just don't think value-wise it's ideal for either guy. So it's a good fight, but I think there's better matchups for both of them.
I agree with that.
Is there anyone specifically on the radar that you guys think would be a good matchup for Mike Perry right now?
Oh, goodness.
Well, going back to that UFC London card, Leon Edwards.
Yes.
Leon Edwards had that very quality win over Gunnar Nelson. He, built up a little drama, even though he came out on the losing side of it. He got a little more attention because of the Masvidal. He ate that 3-piece with a side of soda.
Did you guys see that somebody actually brought a 3-piece to take a picture with Jorge Masvidal? They actually had a 3-piece chicken from KFC.
Oh, that's awesome.
No,
you should have done it. You should have gotten it on the YouTube. Anyway, I think that what I really like about that is Mike Perry has a solid boxing background, and Leon Edwards, being the European fighter, obviously has adapted a lot of other elements of his game, but is going to be pretty familiar with those fighters who have solid boxing. So I'd just love to see how that plays out on a technical level, and then promotion-wise, I think we'd get some real gems from that as well.
Yes, sir.
I agree with that. I think other than Leon Edwards, I think another one I would love to see is possibly a Neil Magny fight. That puts him into the top 15 if he beats Neil Magny. And I think Neil Magny, yes, he's very dangerous with his grappling and striking, but that is a very winnable fight for Mike Perry. I 100% believe that. I think if they're going to go the smart route, Leon Edwards is dangerous. We all know that. He really proved that versus Gunnar Nelson. I think how many people thought he was going to beat Gunnar Nelson? I did not see that coming. If he did, I didn't think it was going to be in such a dominating fashion. So I want to see him against Neil Magny. Get in there with a big guy in there, hopefully knock him out and put himself back into the top 15 where He's got a little bit more drive behind him, and like Luber was saying, kind of get that snowball effect going where you're just getting hyped up and you're hyping yourself up because you're winning fights.
Yeah, and Mike Perry, one of the big things is this win, as great as it was, before this he had been struggling a little bit. So I like that. I like the Neil Magny fight. You know, forget Leon Edwards.
All right, fair enough. Change it on a whim. Well, let's talk about Glover, man. Glover and Ion Cutelaba. Man, this fight was crazy live. I didn't watch it back, so I'm not sure maybe if it was as good as it seemed. But what do you guys say? I mean, you saw it from TV. Did you really enjoy it? Did you think it was one of the best fights of the night?
It was for sure one of the best nights of the night. 100% believe it. And Glover called it like he saw it, man. He goes, "I have to survive the first round." That first round was fucking scary for Glover.
Yes, it was.
So when he got past that first round, and I think it was towards the end of the first round where he started to pick up a lot of steam. And then that second round, like, it was just... he started to take over with his striking also, and then once it got to the ground, man, it was just a whole different world. Ion had no idea what to do. Is it Ion or Ion? I don't really give a shit. The Hulk, I guess, whatever. It was a whole different game. The first round, though, it was scary, but it was hype. When you saw the old man Glover come back and start brawling with this dude and start winning engagements, you guys, Luver, I was in my seat screaming, "Fucking kill him!" And just going nuts. So it was amazing to watch on TV, as well as I'm sure it was amazing to watch in person. The hype was real. The hype was true with that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you mentioned earlier, Legacy said it, that the main card on this fight night, like, it really picked up maybe not all the fights because, the co-main and stuff, but the fights were just back and forth, crazy brawls. Some of the best fighting we'd seen, like, in such a tight window, back-to-back-to-back fights. And this was absolutely part of it. And like we said coming into it, it's kind of the aggressive young bull against the crafty veteran, and Glover had to use it all, man. And as soon as the tide started to turn in that second round, I think on the ground you saw why Glover Teixeira is one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners, especially on top. And he got that mount position. He landed a couple ground and pound shots, and Cutelaba gave up. He made Cutelaba quit. I mean, he submitted him, but like he beat him before that submission was ever locked in. So that was just an awesome day for Glover Teixeira, who's been around for so long, been in so many wars, had some really tough losses. I was so happy for the guy. And Cutelaba will be back. We still know he presents, the danger he presents to anybody in that division. But yeah, I was so happy for Glover Teixeira. That was a fun one. I really enjoyed that fight.
Yes, sir. Okay, I want to take a pause for this fight card for just a second. There's one piece of news that I think is especially worth talking about that I want to hear both you guys' opinions on. So, Brock Lesnar told Dana White that he's retiring, and then Dana White told ESPN. Do you believe it? I guess it's the first question. Do you believe that Brock Lesnar's really retiring, or do you think this is just a negotiation tactic or like propaganda? Like, I don't know. I don't really know what to make of it.
I think it's to keep his name relevant, because we were all hyped, honestly, for the DC Brock Lesnar fight, and then it just kind of faded in the wind. So I think this is kind of just a hype thing because Errol Houani asked Nowitzki himself, "So is he out?" And Nowitzki stated no comment. I mean, that's a little sketch to me. Like, he asked him, "Is he out of the USADA pool?" Nowitzki goes, "No comment." I think this is a way to get him hyped up. I do know they're talking about a fight between DC and Miocic, correct?
Yes, in Anaheim in August.
Right. So I think this is a very dangerous thing, though. That means Dana, if they're still going for the Brock Lesnar fight, though, that means Dana is 100% confident that DC is going to beat Miocic a second time. Which, I don't care what happened in the first fight. Miocic is still a dangerous motherfucker. He's my favorite heavyweight, so it's hard for me to go against him. But it's like either he has that much confidence that DC's going to beat Miocic, or two, that honestly Miocic and Brock Lesnar would be a hell of a fight as well. So I think no matter what, Dana White wins in this situation, and I think the fans kind of win in this situation, but I think he's still in here. I think he's just getting his name back out there and just causing some drama and everything like that. And,
yeah, he's got that Paul Heyman whispering in his ear, telling him how to, maximize the promotional value and everything.
Yep.
I heard that Brock Lesnar had asked for a flat rate because he was concerned with the pay-per-view numbers that ESPN Plus was going to do. because of the change in format, and that was where they got caught up. It seems like kind of a petty thing. Like, you'd think they can negotiate up and down instead of just being like, no, not going to work, we're done.
It's fucking Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, it's Brock Lesnar, exactly. And, there's got to be a price point where they can meet. And so there's two things to consider. One, is it that he's now saying I'm retired so that he can leverage that and get a better contract with the UFC? Or is he saying he's retired because he leveraged these UFC negotiations and now he's like, okay, I got what I needed. I'm signed with a wrestling organization. There's no news that he signed with the wrestling organization. And this Stipe Miocic, Daniel Cormier fight's not exactly official. So when I first heard this news breaking, I'm like, let me see it actually officially booked on a fight card, contract signed. That way the UFC can't back out. They can't take it away from the fighters. So I want to wait until that happens to say we're not seeing Brock Lesnar. But I really do feel like the way it was reported, I got the inclination that this was kind of legitimate. One thing that's interesting is the USADA testing pool. They changed their policy where they don't announce when fighters fail the test until after they have a hearing. So with Brock Lesnar re-entering the test pool, obviously we've seen he's kind of deflated a little bit. He's probably not on the peds as hard as he was before. But maybe if he did get busted, this is how it would play out, right? He would retire. They wouldn't announce it so that Brock could continue to negotiate with the wrestling organizations and get money. But man, I think we need more info. But it is very interesting to see how this played out, because it seemed like DC Brock was, it was good to go. They just had to pan things out. Who knows? Who knows with Brock Lesnar, I guess.
Well, there's 2 points there that you brought up that are fascinating that I want to touch on. You brought up wrestling and you brought up the ESPN and the pay-per-view buys and all that. So from the wrestling side, it seems like when you add Ronda Rousey into the equation, Brock lost a lot of leverage there, because now the WWE has another massive star where Vince McMahon can play hardball and tell him, we're not going to give you the main event, we're not going to give you the title, we've got Ronda Rousey, we don't need you to main event. So I don't know, it's like it's really a mess. I think the USADA part is something too that's interesting there, because if he did fail a drug test and he just retired, that seems to be the easy way out, right? Just retire. But I think a lot of it has to be the UFC is looking at pay-per-views differently, because they're getting paid a lump sum from ESPN whether their pay-per-views do 1 million buys or not, and they probably won't do 1 million buys. I mean, we talked about it before on the show, Luke, that people that are not technically savvy are just not going to sign up for ESPN Plus. They're not going to deal with it. I think it's going to hurt their numbers in the long run. So the UFC has really they have no need to offer Brock all this money, because if they're getting paid from ESPN a flat sum anyway, does it really equal a good turnaround for them? That's the question, right? Like, is Brock still a draw in this sense in the new era of streaming?
Yeah, and it's they still want to sell pay-per-views, right? They still want to do good numbers. They're going to make more money for that. But the like you said, the it's not the thing that drives it, and that's a huge negotiation tool for the UFC. So maybe Brock wasn't expecting that, and that's where they just never were able to come close on numbers, because the UFC's like, oh, we got this leverage. It's interesting. I still think they'd want Brock Lesnar. I mean, you bring eyeballs to the sport, that's only a good thing, but there is because McGregor really did drive this whole, like, fighters now, if they have that leverage, can get a huge chunk of money out of the organization. And maybe the UFC is like, okay, we're putting our foot down. We're not letting this happen anymore, and this is the way they're doing it. We're doing a lot of blind speculation, right, with the steroids thing and everything else. We're not shy about that on Fighting with Heat. Definitely willing to go there, but it's just so hard to read right now.
Yeah, it's tough, man. But I don't know. It's just it's an interesting point in MMA, right, where like the sport is as big as it's ever been, and things are changing so quickly. And I mean, do you think this, like, I think this could just be a play for, okay, they're gonna have Stipe and DC fight, and then Brock will fight the winner? Seems to be where it's going, right?
I kind of go ahead.
Go ahead.
I kind of agree with that. Honestly, that's kind of how I see it. And that was a good point with the failed drug test. The thing is, though, what's better than because honestly, even with the whole John Jones things, we know USADA might be a little sketch. You know what I'm saying? The whole pictogram, you guys might not agree with it, but for a lot of fans, that's very sketchy. It's kind of sitting like, okay, cool. I could see this as a way for Brock Lesnar to say, I'm retiring and stuff. Also, for maybe him to start passing drug tests. Maybe he's having an issue where he hasn't been off the stuff long enough, because like you said, he looked deflated. He wasn't deflated a while back, but now he is. So possibly they're just giving him more time to start passing drug tests, and then now they're just moving along with the heavyweight division until he's good to go. I think in the meat and the bones of it, that's kind of what's going on.
Another question too. I don't know if you guys will have any idea. I don't really have much of an idea either. But if he were to fail, if he were to fail a test in the WWE, would that affect his MMA, or like it wouldn't really be? It'd be just kind of one of those things where they would look the other way, right? Like that. Oh, that didn't happen.
I mean, do they get drug tests in WWE?
They do.
I mean,
they do.
They do? Really? I did not know that. I was like, well, they're all jacked motherfuckers. They're all on it.
Yeah, I don't know if you know, but Roman Reigns is like their big star. He got popped for PEDs a while back, like 3 years back.
Really? Okay.
It is. It's more sketchy than USADA though, right? There's certain wrestlers that are like, yeah. And if he did pop with the WWE, I don't know what they would do, because I'm trying to think like, okay, the Athletic Commission still occasionally will test fighters, and there's been times where the Athletic Commission, like, that's what happened kind of with John Jones, is they tested positive, and not USADA, and then USADA was reacting to it and saying, tested under USADA, and then the Nevada State Athletic Commission was the one who didn't approve of it. So I think that it would be the athletic commissions that would be interested in the WWE test, more so than USADA. So yeah, it would be interesting to see how that plays out. My guess is that the WWE would never bust Brock Lesnar, but
nope. I agree with that. I mean, him and Ronda Rousey is their draw. Even though Ronda Rousey took a lot of the train with her, Brock Lesnar was still their top guy. So I don't know. I kind of see it the same way with Luber. They're going to push it under the carpet, keep it going, keep it rolling, because they got a lot of stars now too. But no one's ever going to replace Brock Lesnar. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So why would they sabotage that?
Yeah, I know, and other guys too, but I don't want to talk about that. But so let's talk about Stipe and Danny Cormier. Are you guys intrigued to see this again? Like, do you care?
I 100% do. Just because the biggest thing, not just because I'm a Stipe fan, but the thing is, Stipe defended the belt the most. Technically, if you go by that, he's the best heavyweight at all time. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the ways to look at it. Of course, you got Fedor in there and stuff, but by some stats, he's the best heavyweight of all time. They've given rematches to people for less. I mean, look at fucking Cody Garbrandt and TJ Dillashaw.
I was thinking that.
Cody got a rematch because of what? Because the hype of it. You know what I'm saying? So I think I'm intrigued by the rematch. I think Stipe, he's probably going to learn from it. Stipe is a smart fighter. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't do the same thing every fight. He switches it up compared to his opponent. So I think what might happen if they fight again, Stipe is going to be like, okay, this is what DC wants. Here's the thing, because I don't think he ever planned for DC, honestly. Rumble showed it, but Rumble looked like he wasn't even in the second fight with DC. But I think Stipe is like one of the first guys to ever get a rematch with Stipe. Stipe is one of the first guys to get a rematch with DC if this happens. So we get to see how much a guy is actually able to learn and maybe adapt to DC's style. That's why I'm intrigued by it. Because we saw it. It was hard. John Jones completely dominated the first fight with DC. Second fight, I know for a fact, for the first 3 rounds until the head kick happened, everyone's butthole was puckered. Let's be honest. I'm sorry, my language, guys, but it's like everyone was like, "Holy shit, DC might be winning this fight." I mean, unless you guys saw it differently, that's how most people saw it. So it's like we saw DC get better too. So I'm interested to see if it's kind of the same thing where Stipe just gets outmatched again because DC gets a rematch, or if Stipe can just actually learn from it and make a difference. Because the thing is, Stipe is fucking dangerous. We don't know. Look how good he looked in the second JDS Stipe fight. You know what I'm saying? It was a different fight, different JDS, but GDS is still a fucking monster. We saw what he did versus Derek Lewis. He took some fucking bombs to the chin like nothing. That's from Derek Lewis. So that's why I'm intrigued by this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first fight, I thought Stipe was running away with it. I thought it was going to be, the storyline would be, what is Daniel Cormier doing at heavyweight? Like, this is a joke of a fight. They just did it for money. And then all of a sudden, I'm not going to say that Daniel Cormier intentionally eye poked him, and I'm not even going to say that the eye pokes are why Daniel Cormier won. But around that time, the fight started changing pace, and then, of course, the big shot to put Stipe down. Heavyweight division, so much can happen. The power is there for everybody. So yeah, I'm super interested in the rematch, and I think we'll see Stipe Miocic be the betting favorite, maybe by a slight margin. It'll be very close. So super compelling. I think looking at it from like what do fans want in general, you have the traditional split, the casual, the hardcore fans. I hate doing it, but it does become relevant in certain situations. And in this one, the casual fans wanted Daniel Cormier, Brock Lesnar. The hardcore fans were holding back vomit at the thought of it. They didn't like it. They hated it, especially with what Legacy was saying about Stipe. Considered, one of the best, at least the very best, one of the best title runs of all time, if not one of the best heavyweight fighters of all time, in a division where you just don't go on runs as a champion. It shows you how dangerous he was, how good he was. I love this fight. I'm so excited. The only other fighter that would be relevant in this whole picture would be Francis Ngannou, and we can get another fight from him before that becomes an issue. He's still young, and he had the loss to Stipe. So I love this fight. I props to Stipe for waiting it out and saying no, I'm not fighting this random fight where at heavyweight you could just lose at a moment's notice. He waited, he bided his time. He's getting a title shot probably. I can't wait. I'm hyped for it. It's not going to do the numbers DC and Brock Lesnar was going to do, but I think it's kind of nice to give something to the hardcore fans every now and then and be like, our sport is legitimate. We really do want to see the best fighters fight the best fighters, and this is the way to do it right here, this matchup.
Or he could just be used as a pawn for negotiation, but that remains to be seen. So let's go back to the UFC Fort Lauderdale card, man. The most controversial fight of the night, Corey Sandhagen and John Lineker. Did you guys agree with the decision of Sandhagen getting the win by a split decision?
I mean, I don't think you could ever score a split decision. This is like a pet peeve of mine when someone's like, yeah, I thought that was a split decision. Like, wait, no, you scored the round 2 for one guy and 1 for the other guy? How does that work? So, no, I scored it for Sandhagen, but Lineker was ripping those body shots. I think we saw on the night, the body shots weren't scoring on the judges' cards, but man, oh man, was Lineker ripping those things. I take it back. I remember I did score it 2-1 for Lineker. I gave Lineker the first and the third. We had the end of the fight where Lineker had that guillotine and Sandhagen had blood squirting out of his nose. Just vicious. Mm-hmm. So super impressive performance from Lineker, who is a little bit of an underdog, and it really showed that, even though he was giving up, I think, 6 inches of height, super dangerous in the division, and it's tough to lose a fight like that where you're an underdog and you put on a great performance. But I think it could have gone either way. I didn't have an issue with any judge's scorecard on that fight, so I was fine with it. It was a great fight.
Yeah, and, I do remember because me and Lou were at the end of the fight. It's like Lineker might have stole that third round. And we both kind of thought Lineker did edge it out. But then I don't remember either of us being mad when Sandhagen won because at the same time, the third round was such a flop in the air because, it was Sandhagen in the last round. Of course, Lineker ripping shots, but Sandhagen, I think the term we said was sniping him over and over again. So, it was just – I wasn't mad about the decision. Of course, I know more people who are more one-sided towards one fighter definitely are going to be. But, I wasn't mad at the decision. It sucks because I'm a Lineker fan, but at the same time, you have to step back and be like, okay, am I being biased? Then once you look at it again, it's like, okay, I can see how that happened. And I think that's exactly what I did there. And I honestly agree with the decision because I watched it back a second time. Still a very close fight watching the second time. But Sandhagen, did land more shots and got 2 takedowns. He put points on the board. Lineker landed more devastating. But that's the thing where I was talking to Luber. Who do you give it to? The more powerful shots that land every once in a while, or the shots that hit you constantly with less power. So,
yeah, that's one way to look at it for sure. I loved how Dominic Cruz put it. He pretty much called everybody stupid on the post fight. He was like, it takes an educated eye to understand why Corey Sandhagen won the decision. And it was a rain of boos for the crowd, but like I said, heavy Brazilian influence, so they were definitely not happy, but. I can't say that I disagree either. Corey Sandhagen looked damn good, and he seems to be a legitimate contender now on the top of that bantamweight division. What did you say?
Yeah, I look at the Jack Hermanson fight. Very similar in a lot of ways. The powerful, a little bit shorter Brazilian landing vicious body shots. The other guy just eating it and showing that new skill set. The flying knees out of nowhere that Sandhagen was throwing. And we've seen in previous fights, he has all these techniques that are like entering the sport, and he's utilizing them, and he's flowing between things, and super impressive. Even though it was a tight fight against Lineker, who's not maybe a title contender at the moment, I think he showed the skill set to really give almost anybody trouble, especially now that we kind of got the division blown up with TJ going on timeout for a couple of years. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do against maybe somebody his similar size, where it's not as much about a weird stylistic matchup and more about just who's the better fighter. I think Sandhagen's going to be a menace in that division.
Yeah, and Legacy, who would you like to see Sandhagen face next?
Oh, you already know I'm already thinking about that, man. Maybe I got 3 fights I'd like to see him in. Maybe give him a fight where he doesn't jump up real quick and maybe get starched, you know what I'm saying? Because that's always a possibility, especially with some of the guys in the top division. Maybe possibly just a fight to kind of keep him relevant. Maybe a fight with Peter Yan. I think that'll be interesting. But what I really want to see is either Corey against Cody or Corey maybe versus Pedro Munoz. I think that'll be interesting. I want to see the Cody fight a little bit more. I think I want to see the Cody fight a little bit more. But that is a dangerous fight for Cody. But the thing is, if Corey loses to Cody, it's gonna be like, well, it's Cody Garbrandt, no fucking duh. You know what I'm saying? But you throw him up to Pedro Munoz, even though he starched and knocked out Cody, I don't think people really know how good he is yet. So I'm worried that if he fights a guy like Pedro and he loses, it could be a thing of like, oh, okay, he can't even beat Pedro. Well, okay, he's not really relevant. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think if he fights Cody and he beats him, that's big. But if he loses, he's not going to lose any stock because people look at Cody differently than they look at other bantamweights, and I feel like that's the thing. But either Cody or Pedro, I think that'll be fun to watch.
And
go
ahead.
Sorry, does Aljamain Sterling have a fight booked right now?
I believe Aljamain Sterling is waiting on that. I believe he's probably going to get the winner between Cejudo and Moraes. So if I was Aljamain, fucking chill, bro. Wait it out. Pull the Stipe. Yep. I'll wait. Just do that shit.
He has, according to Newsday, Aljamain Sterling versus Pedro Munoz will take place at UFC 238.
Very good fight. That is a very good fight. So yeah, I like the Cody Garbrandt offer too there. So the division, I've always been a hater on the lighter weight divisions, but man, I find myself just more and more interested in these fights. Maybe I got to eat my own foot on that one because
I also have to note too that that fight, the Aljamain Sterling and Pedro Munoz, also takes place at the same time as Marlon Moraes and Henry Cejudo, so there could be potential replacement there as well. Something would happen.
I think that's smart. I think that's what they're doing right there. But yeah, but if that doesn't work, that's definitely a very good number 1 contenders fight. So
yeah, undisputed. I would say those two guys are probably 3 and 4 in the division, with Cejudo and Moraes being 1 and 2.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Luke. What were you saying?
Oh no, we're good. That was it.
Okay, cool. And I know that our prospect to watch was Roosevelt Roberts. Did you think that he looked as good? He looked as good as the card said. I mean, he won by unanimous decision, but I didn't think that he looked as good as that decision would suggest.
Yeah, I think I was a little let down. His grappling looked very good. His hands looked pretty good, but I think physically he just wasn't as explosive, or maybe as interesting, as compelling, as smooth. Whatever skill set physically, I just don't think it was quite there. He definitely knows how to fight in all areas, and the grappling was a lot of fun to watch. But yeah, I prospect to watch. We watched. You don't need to watch it that close for a little while. We could take a break on it. I think he's got to put some things together.
Yeah. I mean, you forget, though, bro. He's fighting Jesus Christ. I mean, crap. Come on, guys. But I agree with that. I mean, Luber, you even had a little bit of a hype for him before this fight, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no. I broke him.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, so, his opponent with that luxurious Jesus hair and the yeah.
And he walked out to Christian music.
Oh, gosh. Me and Luber saw that and we're like, knock him out, please. But the thing is, though, it's I think Roosevelt said, I think he said this best, where he was like, and honestly, I agree with him. Fighters make fights, you know what I'm saying? Roosevelt steamed through his last fight with that guillotine. But then he might just struggle with Thomas Gifford. We don't know. You know what I'm saying? He might go into his next fight and fucking starch the dude. That's kind of in his defense, where fighters make fights. Maybe this was a tough fight for him. Maybe his style was weird for him, wasn't really used to it. But kind of back on the same thing, Luber talking him up a little bit. I was like, shit, okay, good to go. He showed me, I saw that guillotine and the replays and stuff. I was like, okay, all right. Then I saw the fight and I was like, very good grappling. The dude's good, but he's not a fucking Israel Adesanya hype train. He's not, that kind of hype train that everyone thought he was going to be. So I think let's give him time. I think he will be a problem in the future. I don't think he's a hype train, though. Definitely not.
Yeah, and in his defense, there's a couple fights for Izzy where they're fairly close, and he ended up turning it around. So he does have time. He could be that guy, but I think could be that guy isn't enough to say, like, everybody hop on board, let's do it, it's happening. It's potentially there still. He didn't like look like a flop completely, but yeah, I'm tentative on the bandwagon right now. I have 1 foot off.
Yeah, it is. It just sucks because this, even though he won, it did not help his stock whatsoever. I think, like Luber said, more people jumped off than stayed on, which sucks because he did really show he's good. You know what I'm saying? Anyone in the UFC is good. It just sucks that kind of performance, so many people jumped off of him. Even as, maybe not as a hype train, but I know he lost a lot of fans on that fight right away. So it just sucks because his stock definitely dropped even though he won.
And he was a hometown boy too, and it seemed like hardly anybody knew who he was.
Right.
So that doesn't help at all. But let's look at the prelims. Jim Miller defeated Jason Gonzalez in the first round in front of his family, man. Feel good moment. What did you guys think?
Yeah, it was his 31st UFC fight, setting the record.
Yeah.
Him and Cerrone, I'm sure, are going back and forth. I'm pretty sure Cerrone will have his 31st in this weekend. So, but yeah, no, awesome moment for Jim Miller. He's that kind of guy that, like, he had that down slow. People thought he was done, and then we found out he had Lyme disease, and he made a little comeback. But then he got smoked by Oliveira, and you're like, okay, maybe he's done now. But now he goes out there, and Jason Gonzalez, he's a legitimate fighter, and it was a quality win. Man, I love watching Jim Miller fight. Coming out to Creedence Clearwater Revival, there's something about him, just an old school guy, and his game is still there, man. His jiu-jitsu has been improving over and over again. He's been an amazing jiu-jitsu practitioner for a long time, and he's tough as it comes. Yeah, awesome moment. Like you said, the family there. It's sometimes the sports, like, you want the just bleed moments, and then sometimes it gets pretty real, and that was a pretty real moment. It was awesome. I loved it.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to lie, though. When I saw that his family was there, I was like, oh, God. Oh, no. Just because, we all love Jim Miller, but like Luber was saying, Jason Gonzalez is a fucking monster. So I was worried he's going to get, put away with his family right there. That's the only thing I was worried about. But it seemed like the second that bell was rung, though, it was the Jim Miller show, honestly. And then the second he got a hold of him, it was over. So I'm just glad he won. I was happy with it. And yeah, honestly, for me, not much to say about this fight. It was just a good old show by Jim Miller. So
yeah, it's just a good old fashioned UFC fight. So for the sake of time, I'm gonna jump off this card for a minute because we have Iaquinta and Cowboy that we got to talk about, and I know you guys are hyped for that one, but we also had a Bellator event take place, and that the main event of that event was Rory McDonald and John Fitch. And this fight was littered with controversy. I don't know how in the hell we wound up with a draw. I'm not sure what fight the judges were watching. That's just me personally, but I know you're a big John Fitch fan, Luke. But what did you guys think? I had it scored 3-2 for Rory McDonald. I watched the fight back, and that's the way I saw it. But all 3 judges saw a 10-8 round for Fitch, and I don't know. Round 3?
Two of the 3 did. It was a majority draw.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I'm looking at it here, man.
Oh.
I'm looking at it here on MMA Decisions. All 3 judges had a 10-8 round. Round 3
Oh,
for Fitch.
Wow.
Yeah, and then one of the judges gave the fight to John Fitch. You're right. Sorry about that.
Yes, sir. So, what did you guys think?
Okay. Yeah, because I had full disclosure, right? I was a huge John Fitch fan as a kid when he was the number 2 fighter behind George St. Pierre, squarely behind there. And when Rory McDonald made his rise up in the welterweight division, I always said, like, I think Rory McDonald is the best fighter that John Fitch can beat right now. This is after John Fitch had kind of fallen off a little bit. And I thought that John Fitch's wrestling style would work against Rory, and Rory would have a hard time getting off his back. And that is how it played out. But John Fitch is 40-something years old. He got caught a few times. He definitely got hurt. I scored it for John Fitch. I agree with that one lone judge. The 10-8, dominant round, right? And maybe it depends on whether or not you think there should be more 10-8s in the sport or not. A lot of people think there should be because it would open up the scoring cards. We'll see more variety. Maybe they would represent what happened in the fight better if we have more variety in the scores per round. I think if you look at the fight overall, I thought John Fitch, if we did the pride scoring system where you just say who won the fight, I thought John Fitch won it, but Rory McDonald did do more damage. It's a weird judging situation.
Yep.
And when that happens, you say controversy, I say, it just is what it is. There's no good way to score a fight like that. I was fine with the draw. I scored it for John Fitch, like I said. I was actually a little surprised John Fitch didn't win, but looking back and hearing the arguments, the first round, I scored it for John Fitch, but Rory hurt him. And John Fitch, his style doesn't really do a lot of damage, which is good for Rory's nose. I was fine with the scorecard. I understand the drama, the upset, but the fight itself didn't really do much for me. It was Rory McDonald, I guess, looking pretty bad by most people's standards compared to what we expect from him. And John Fitch, I think he's been on a nice little run, so it was a fight.
Yeah, and before I say this, Luber knows this. I'm a hell of a Rory McDonald fan. Like, I think at the beginning, Luber was like, "I'm going for Fitch." I'm like, "Bro, Rory, bro, all the way." But at the end of the fight, Luber is like, "I think Fitch won." I was like, "Bro, I think Rory lost, bro." And that's how I saw it. It might just because I'm a wrestler and I appreciate that. And I looked at what John Fitch was doing against Rory, who is a hell of a wrestler as well. And I was like, damn, this dude is controlling this man. Of course, Rory had his moments. He did have his moments where he definitely hurt John Fitch. And there was a time where I was like, crap, he's about to put him out. When he had him against the cage, after that head kick that landed, I was like, ooh, he's going to be in trouble. If Rory capitalizes right now, we're good to go. But I honestly thought John Fitch won the fight. I was shocked when the draw came up, and I agree with 10-8 rounds. I honestly do. I think it's a dominating round where what round was the 10-8 on?
Round 3.
Round 3. So that was the round where Rory almost got nothing off, correct?
Yes.
I mean, I think that 10-8 is justified there because he did nothing. John Fitch, don't get me wrong, he didn't do much on top either when it came to damage-wise, but he controlled the entire round. After that round, I was like, crap, what is Rory going to do next? After that, that's got to be a confidence killer. So I had John Fitch winning. Okay with the draw the same way. I think there should be more draws in MMA. But at the same time, I did not like the idea that even though it was a draw, Rory McDonald automatically gets to advance. I thought that was a little weird because of the tournament style. But okay with the decision, but I did think John Fitch won.
Oh, you got to beat the champion, right?
I hate that saying.
That's the way it is. In boxing, MMA, that's just the way it is, right? You got to beat the champion. So I guess it makes sense to have Rory move on into the tournament. But let's talk about the post-fight interview that Rory had.
Yes.
We were just talking about Jesus and Christianity, and so it seems like Rory McDonald's found God, and he doesn't have the will to want to hurt people anymore, and that seems to be the basis of what he does for a living is hurt people. So if he doesn't have that will anymore to do that, his time in this sport seems like it's going to be coming to an end. That's the way it sounds by the way he was talking.
I agree with that, and I think Brendan Schaub said it best. Bro, get out. Don't waste your time and get injured in there. Rory's face is already fucked up and everything like that. So get out. You got a crap load of money because of this. He's like, and I agree with him. If you're not into it, you're just going to get hurt more. That's all that's going to happen. If you're not into it anymore, you're not going to get anything good out of it. Even if you do win, you're going to resent it later. You know what I'm saying? And he's been in some wars. And now we're realizing that CTE is a real thing. We're realizing that brain damage in MMA is a real thing. So I think if he's not into it anymore, he's just going to get hit more. Get out. Let John Fitch continue in your place. That's honestly how I see it.
Yeah, it's an excellent opportunity for, John Fitch would fit right in the tournament, right? And with Rory, like you're saying, the damage thing, it's one thing to not want to hurt someone when you're fighting John Fitch. I think the next fight is against Gracie. I'm not sure. Yeah. Does that Gracie have good striking? I always get them confused, but I doubt it. So these are maybe safe fights for him where you can make some very good money. But man, if you're in there against Douglas Lima, against Michael Venom Page, and you're like, I don't really want to hurt this guy. No, that is a terrible, terrible idea. Don't do it. So it's very it's unsettling. It's off-putting to hear a fighter do that. A lot of people were like, it's really great to hear somebody be honest about it. They're being honest. They don't want to hurt people. But I'm like, no, I'm watching you fight in a cage, man. I like that you're a real person and you're relatable and stuff, but I'm not trying to relate to cage fighters on a personal level all the time. I'm trying to watch them fight. It's great when I can, but if it means you're not going to be giving your best performance, if it means you're fighting yourself and holding back because of it, that is a scary thought, especially with the killers on the other side of this bracket of this tournament.
Yep.
So maybe we'll see another fight from him just because of that. But I'd rather see him step out now, where he got John Fitch, coming off a draw where he actually won on one of the judges' scorecards. It would make a lot of sense if that's what Rory's really thinking. But dollars make sense, and another fight for Rory makes a lot of sense.
And man, John Fitch looked damn good too. This is the as good as he's looked in quite some time, man. You got to give it up to him. It was a hell of a fight.
Yeah, and he had that win against Paul Daly too recently, so I'm happy for him. But yeah, we'll see. I think the winner of this tournament is probably not going to be either of those guys.
No,
probably not. I am curious to see how this tournament plays out, though. All right, let's talk. Where is this card? Ottawa, right? UFC Ottawa is where this card is taking place.
Yes, I believe 100%.
Yep, it's gonna be in Ottawa. So this Saturday, streaming on ESPN Plus, we got UFC Fight Night in Ottawa, headlined by Iaquinta and Cowboy Cerrone. Man, it's a hell of a fight. This could potentially be a barn burner. We've had a lot of these recently. A lot of these ESPN Plus cards have just been headlined by great fights, and like we've seen Gaethje and Barbosa. We've just seen a ton of great fights. And are you guys looking forward to this one? I know you are, but I gotta ask anyway.
To your point, this is the 9th UFC on ESPN Plus already. Like you said, we've had a ton of good ones. I just think it's crazy. We're in just starting May, and we've already had 9 of them. So shout out to ESPN Plus, great value, $5 a month, all that good stuff. Sponsor us, please.
Yes, please.
We talk about the different styles of cards they make. Sometimes you have a really great top of the card and the rest is just filler. Sometimes it's top to bottom, but the main event is whatever. I think on this one you see the top 3 fights are pretty great, and the rest are they may end up playing out as being amazing fights and super exciting to watch. I would almost expect it at this point, the way where these cards have been going. They've been awesome. But yeah, I think the top 3 fights are really the selling point here, especially the main event.
Yeah, exactly. But same thing what Luber said. I think, honestly, because we looked at this card last week after we got done with the thing, and we're like, "Ooh, this is gonna be a good card." I don't know that guy. Okay, the top 3 is a great card. But it's like I think it's gonna be a good card. I don't think this is ESPN. They're starting off. They're gonna put their best show forward at the beginning. So I think honestly for the first year, this is what we're gonna get. So I think honestly the main card is still gonna be really good. I'm just excited for this fight. I'm big fans of both Al and Donald Cerrone, so I got no complaints about this card, man. So
yeah, stylistically, Luke, what are you looking for here? Like, what do you think is the key to victory for Al, and what do you think is the key to victory for Cowboy?
Yeah, I think we've seen so much footage on Donald Cerrone. Like we said, 30 fights, fighting the best of the best. One of his big criticisms has always been when he gets close to the big show, he tends to fall short. And I've always thought of it as it's not the pressure of the event. It's not the what's on the line for him. It's the fighters he's fighting. When he fights the best of the best, he has holes in his game, and they've been able to exploit it. One thing I was really concerned with, as good as he looked in the Alex Hernandez fight, is he's leaving that chin hanging out there. And I feel like Al Iaquinta, with his boxing prowess, with his camp that is just always going to be on point, he's going to want to look to land a big shot on Donald Cerrone and hit him on the chin. And I think he's going to have opportunities to do it. I think the boxing game is kind of something that Donald Cerrone has struggled with before. So I think that what Al's going to want to do is do what he's been doing for a while now. Keep those hands lower than you would expect. It looks weird. It looks like maybe he's not even fighting like a mixed martial art fighter should fight, but it's because it helps defend the takedown, and he's confident enough in his chin and his ability to move out of the way, slide with punches, and come back with those big power counters. So I expect Al Iaquinta to take it slow and look for the big power shots. And then on the opposite end, Donald Cerrone, one thing that we've seen lately is his ground game is, it's not just like, okay, he has one of the best ground games ever, he can win a fight like that. No, it's he rips arms off, he chokes people out, he hits triangles like this. And Al Iaquinta, yes, he defended all of Khabib's takedown attempts, but he lost the fight because of it, because he's playing so defensive in the wrestling game. If Cerrone can pressure him with wrestling and make Al adjust, I think that's a great way to either set up those head kicks, which are so like, they're not the prettiest head kicks, but they're so effective. They land over and over and rock people, hurt them badly. So I think Cerrone's got to mix it up and mix in the grappling.
I agree with that. Same thing though, like Luber is saying, Cerrone's issues is boxers. You know what I'm saying? He leaves that chin out there, and every time he's lost, it's been pretty much to boxers. be it the Diaz or even Darren Till boxed him up and stuff like that. So it's just going to be Al Iaquinta doing exactly what Al Iaquinta does. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, he's called Raging Al. He is dangerous. He gets emotional in there. He gets angry. He starts throwing up power. And that scares me a little bit of Donald Cerrone. Honestly, Donald Cerrone, I think what he needs to bring is just the same intensity that he's had for his last couple of fights. Ever since he became a father, we all noticed that he made a difference. He said, I'm not winning the belt just because I want to now. I'm winning the belt because of my son. I need to make a life for him and everything like that. That's made a big difference. The intensity that he had versus Mike Perry, sorry, Looper, but the intensity he had with Mike Perry, it's like, remember when he got that armbar on him, Donald Cerrone looked like he was screaming in there, trying to actually kill him. You know what I'm saying? So you laugh, but I was like, holy shit, we've never seen this. Like, this is ridiculous. I think Donald just needs to play distance, keep away from Al, get Al emotional, because he gets emotional. You know what I'm saying? He gets mad at the crowd when he gets booed. He got emotional during the Kevin Lee fight, and everything like that. So just play your distance, get emotional, look for takedowns, set up your kicks nice and well. Just pick him apart from range. That's what I think what Cerrone needs to do. And of course, get him to the ground. Simple answer, get him to the ground. Although Al is no slouch on the ground. He's very good. Khabib, very good. Did better, honestly, than I think Conor did against Khabib. And then Kevin Lee, like, who does that well against Kevin Lee on the ground? So I think Donald might have a little bit more trouble on the ground than what people are thinking, because I don't know who would win a grappling match between Kevin Lee and Donald Cerrone. I honestly don't. But I think there's going to be more issues on the ground. But I think Donald needs to just do MMA, play his entire game, all ranges.
It's funny that you brought up, Al Iaquinta getting emotional, and he is raging out, and he gets mad. How much of that do you think is legitimate emotion, or how much of that you think is him just being smart and understanding that you have to have a character, you have to have something for people to recognize you as, and he just gets mad just because that's what people expect from him now, because that's what he's supposed to be,
Yeah, he's got that New York, that FU New York personality, right? And I think it is kind of a trademark. He's both for his personality, but for the area he represents. But I think it's genuine. I don't think he's putting it on like he's a nice guy backstage. No, I think he is kind of like a dick, and he likes to play it up to the crowd and everything. There's a video back in the day, one of his early fights, where he trashed the hotel room after he lost because he's mad at the judges. He's not even necessarily a great person, but it does come off very entertaining, and he's a good sport. So I'm not being critical of him, but I think it is genuine. I think it's like a regional thing for sure. He's that loudmouth from New York. Hey, buddy, I'm walking here. That whole thing. And I do think that as much as it plays a factor in his fights, I think that it's. I don't know if it's ever going to be like the vulnerability that gets him in trouble, that he gets emotional. This is a great test for it, though, because Donald Cerrone is that fighter who's seen it all, done it all. If he can use that, he will. And so I think that it might be something we see Donald Cerrone try to exploit. Either just, and Legacy was talking about, this new dad Cerrone is intense on a whole new level. So I'm interested to see what the buildup will be and how they interact with each other in these next few days, because that may determine a lot of how they come out and fight. Like they are two guys who have shown different, especially Cerrone. He's fought differently based on how he is emotionally coming into a fight. So I think I need to sit down and watch the press conference that's probably going on today, the weigh-ins, the stare down. I'm very interested to see how this matches up on so many different levels, but I think the emotional level is part of it.
Yeah, now let's talk about the state of the lightweight division. So as we know, Donald Cerrone was allegedly supposed to fight Conor McGregor, depending on what you believe, and allegedly Conor didn't want to be the co-main event, so that fell through. But our boy Chael P. Sonnen, he said that Tony Ferguson should be next in line to get the winner of this fight. Does that make a lot of sense to you, or do you guys think Ferguson should be looking for a Conor fight because he did change management? He was managed by the same manager that Conor's managed. Was it Paradigm, right? Is it? Do you guys know? I don't know. All I know is that he left management. He left his management team, and that same management team that Conor has. So people are thinking Tony's trying to get Conor in a fight. But what do you think makes the most sense there? You think Tony should be trying to fight the winner of this fight, or I mean, obviously he should be trying to fight Conor, but I mean, he puts himself in a bad spot if he fights Conor, because Conor could really beat him. But I mean, if he gets a guy like Cowboy, he seemingly should be able to dominate Cowboy. I mean, he's younger, but I mean, what do you guys think?
I think if Tony can wait out for the championship fight, wait out for the championship fight. How close has he been to that strap? How many times has he been that close to the strap? I think for him to take a chance and fight someone else is kind of dangerous at this point. Like, look at the Anthony Pettis fight. He won the fight, but there's a few oh shit moments for Tony. So he's inhuman, but we know he's human. You know what I'm saying? We know he could get hurt and everything like that. So like you're saying, a Conor fight, that Conor could beat him. I think Tony beats Conor, but Conor could really beat him. And then it's just like the top 5 guys, even a Tony fight, if Tony fights Justin, that's scary for Tony. So I think Tony just wait this out, get the championship fight that he 100% deserves after how many years of this crap. So wait it out, get the title fight, and then move on from there. Look for the Conor fight then, after you got the strap.
Yeah, it's complicated, right? Because we have Poirier coming off one of the most dominant victories. Well, not dominant victories, but impressive victories, right? That Max Holloway win, because everyone knows what Max is doing, and Poirier just looked like a monster. He's been on such a tear lately. Poirier is such a tough matchup for a lot of these fighters that you wouldn't want to fight him unless you're getting something pretty significant in return. So what should Tony Ferguson do? Yeah, I think Tony Ferguson deserves a title shot. He should wait it out. But who is he fighting then? Is he fighting Poirier? Is he fighting Khabib? Is he fighting the winner of that fight? Is it waiting a year? And then the issue I have is that I don't see the UFC matching Tony Ferguson up with Conor McGregor unless it's for the belt. It's just too dangerous for McGregor. And Tony Ferguson, like we said, wants to fight for the belt anyway. This would be a good consolation prize for Tony Ferguson, Conor McGregor fight, but I don't think the UFC is going to do that just because of the McGregor is their focus. That's what they're really caring about in terms of matchmaking. So I almost think that the winner of this fight, Conor McGregor, would make sense, and Tony Ferguson sitting on the sideline or filling in for that fight, or just straight up fighting Khabib and saying, Poirier, yeah, you earned it, but sorry, bud, we're screwing everyone over in some way, so it's your turn.
And the lightweight division is such a mess, right? It's awesome, but it's awesome to watch it play out in front of us.
Yeah, and I love the dark horse Gaethje now with an exciting knockout win. It is. There's just have them fight. Let's have all these guys fight every 3 months, and we'll settle this all in a couple of years' time. It'll take a while, but we can untangle the knot.
Yeah, make it happen.
I just want to see fights get booked. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Honestly, I don't think the lightweight division is gonna really shake out until Conor leaves. Yeah. Honestly, because Conor's always gonna be that guy. Who knows? He might leave the UFC and might pull a Ronda Rousey. It's like, I'm not going to fight for the belt. Fuck all you guys. You know what I'm saying? Gaethje could go on and win 4 more fights. Supposed to get the title shot. Nope, Conor's here. Conor beats the champion or whatever, and he ducks out. That's a Conor thing to do. So I think the only way the division calms down is when Conor leaves.
Right, and I mean, he retired, so I don't know, depending on what you believe and who you believe, but let's keep going though. Let's talk about middleweight. We got Derek Brunson versus Elias Theodorou. So I don't know. I don't really know a whole lot about Elias Theodorou, but I know Derek Brunson's coming off a loss. But what are you guys looking forward to here? Do you think this will be a good matchup here for the middleweights?
I think this is a good opportunity to make a little social statement, and that's that I think the sport of bullfighting is terrible. The bulls that shouldn't be treated that way. The matadors, it's stupid. They have all these advantages. You say it's dangerous, whatever. Terrible thing, but sometimes it's fun to watch, and I think that's what we're getting in this fight. It's a bullfight. It's Derek Brunson, this angry push forward at all times, try to knock you out. That's his style. That's what he wants to do, and he's never changed it. He's always leaving that chin exposed, doing it he does it to his own detriment. I don't know if it's a mental thing or what, or if it's just his style he wants to fight, but that's his approach. And Elias Theodorou is one of the least aggressive middleweights in the world. He's always moving backwards, throwing these kicks that score but don't do a lot of damage. And I think it's a really interesting matchup for that reason. I think Derek Brunson physically is the better fighter, more dangerous. His wrestling is going to be a huge threat, but I don't think he's going to use it. I think he's going to charge forward, swing hard, and it's a matter of whether or not Theodorou can get out of the way, which he's very good at.
Yep. And I think Derek Brunson in this fight is probably going to go out and try to make a statement. You know, his last fight with Izzy, not looking so good. So I think he's going to come out here and try to do what he does best and knock someone out really early. Which honestly, you know, like Luber said though, the other dude's always on his bike. You know what I'm saying? Always moving backwards. He wins 59% of his fights by decision. You know what I'm saying? So I think Derek Brunson is just going to go in there and try to do his thing, which might be a scary thing because I'm worried that he might get emotional because Theodora is definitely a guy to expose that. He's definitely a guy to, all right, I'm going to move out of the way, pick my shots, 1, 2, okay, you do your crazy raging bull thing, and I'm going to move out of the way again. So I hope Derek Brunson doesn't come into this emotional. Because honestly, if we see that, I think there's a chance that Theodora might just kind of run away with this.
Yeah, and Theodora is on a bit of a run too. So this is definitely a good way for him to launch himself into the top of the middleweight division with a big win here over Brunson.
Yeah, and it's a super dangerous fight for him, even if it's stylistically perfect for him. He said it himself, the way he moves, it's very unorthodox. A lot of herky-jerky head movement and stuff. If Brunson connects on him clean, we may see one of the most devastating knockouts in the middleweight division in a long time. Because Derek Brunson's going to swing as hard as he can, regardless of whether or not he thinks he's going to connect. You know, he's just going to be looking for that knockout. And, oh, man, that would be brutal if it connected. So even if it ends up being a decision win for Theodoro, I think it's going to be one where fans are kind of on the edge of their seat for a long time because I think it's going to be a constant threat from Derek Brunson. Even when he starts to get tired, the knockout power is going to be evident. So I'm excited to see how it plays out. It's a good little experiment.
Yeah. So what are your guys' predictions for this fight? Let's start with you, Legacy. Who do you think is going to take it home?
For the Derek Brunson fight, I honestly think Derek Brunson's going to win. There's too many variables. Yeah, Theodora is really good at evading and stuff, but Derek Brunson's got a lot of game plans that he could bring into this fight. He can wrestle, and I pretty confidently that Derek Brunson could out-wrestle this man pretty easily. Ground and pounding, get going on that. He's got a few submission wins too, so that's always in the book. But I think the biggest thing is, like Luber said, and I agree 100%, I'm glad he said it, Theodora's head movement might be a really bad thing in this fight. Might be a really bad thing. Because Derek Brunson, he throws wild when he wants to, but every shot is destined to try to kill you. That's literally the best way to say it. So, and you know, we see it a lot where fighters are using head movement, but then they get caught by something because they literally swayed into that shit. You know, and Derek Brunson's a guy that's going to throw wild. You can't really prepare for that. So it's like we see it a lot where Derek Brunson might throw an overhand on one side, and then right away he's throwing an uppercut with the other. Like he throws wild. So I think Derek Brunson's going to take this by knockout, either in the second round.
Yeah, I'll concur. I look back at the Elias Theodoro's previous fight against Eric Anders. Super close fight, could have gone either way. He did get caught a little bit. He did get hurt a little bit. And I think Derek Brunson is a couple tiers above Eric Anders in terms of just threat and overall skill set, yes, but also just like matchup-wise, I think his power does translate a lot more into a threat towards Theodoro. So, yeah, I'm going to pick Brunson by knockout, too.
All right, cool. And I forgot to ask you guys as well. Who are you predicting? Iaquinta or Donald Cerrone?
You make me say it, but I think Iaquinta is going to take this. Honestly, I love Cerrone to death, but it's just one of those things where you look at it stylistically that Iaquinta's got the tools to beat Cerrone. He really does. He has the boxing, he has the aggressiveness, and the power. You know, Cerrone did take some good shots from Mike Perry and stuff, but I think Iaquinta is a better boxer. He's probably going to place his punches a little better than Perry does. So I think Iaquinta is going to win this. I think it's probably going to be, honestly, in my opinion, probably first round knockout for Iaquinta. Wow.
That's bold.
Yeah, man. It's like you said. It's tough to say. Ton of fanfare for Donald Cerrone, right? People love the guy, and it's tough to pick against him in general. But also this dad Cerrone movement, right? This new Cerrone. It's so easy to buy into. It's hard to pick against them, and I've been doing it, and I don't want to do it again, but I'm going to. I think Iaquinta. You made the comparison to the Mike Perry fight. I think that was a very dangerous fight for Donald Cerrone, and then Mike Perry took it to the ground himself. I think Iaquinta's too smart to do something like that. Too well coached. That Matt Serra, Ray Longo. I mean, Ray Longo just going to be screaming in his ear, do this, do that, and I think it's going to be the right advice. It's a great camp. We've seen how many fighters in that camp show improvements and show very intelligent fighting. They're very, very smart camp. So I think they're breaking apart the film on Cerrone. They're going to see the openings that I mean, obviously what I think is an opening might not be what they think is an opening, but I think there are openings there and they're going to find him. And I think, Al's going to catch him at some point.
Exactly. But this is a fight for me that if Cerrone was to make a upset, this is the fight for him that he really could take advantage of that. I'm not going to count Cerrone out by any means, though. Now, there's a few fights that Al's had where I'm like, okay, obviously he's going to win. But I say Al's going to win, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I'm just going by stylistically, this is what's going to happen. But Cerrone, I think he still has a hell of a dog in this fight, though.
One factor, X factor in favor of Cerrone, I think, is going to be the size advantage. I think Iaquinta is a pretty average to below average size lightweight, and Cerrone's a huge one. So that's something to watch out for. Reach, size, but at the end of the day, I think Al's got it.
Yeah, the size differential is very evident. And we have picked against Cerrone once or twice on this show, and it hasn't worked out in our favor. But so I'm gonna go with Donald Cerrone here too, just to disagree. But I do feel like by picking Donald Cerrone, Raging Al is gonna get the win, and this is really a toss-up. This is a toss-up. Like, we don't know who's gonna win this. Do you guys have the betting line? Either one of you have the betting line in front of you?
Let me see if I pull up the odds real quick.
Race to it. Yeah, because there's a couple other ones that I was interested in.
Yeah, we know, and I know you Luke, you give the best betting advice in MMA on the internet.
3-0 on the previous card, all underdogs. Just saying, yeah, minus 125 for Iaquinta, minus 105 Donald Cerrone. So it's basically a pick 'em on Bovada right now with Iaquinta slightly edging, which is I would probably bet on Iaquinta there. Not that you should at home, but yeah, I think that's a good line for Iaquinta, but not a great one. I think it's a very close fight.
Yeah, I think though as the fight gets closer, though, more people are going to put in their submissions. We're going to see Iaquinta edge out a little bit more than what he is now.
And but Brunson and Elias is also is a pick'em. They're both at minus 110, so that's always fun. Let me see. So next up on our three-headed monster, we got Cub Swanson and Shane Burgos. So now, could this be another instance where, like we saw with Lineker and Sandhagen, where we've got a ranked guy? I believe Lineker was top 10. And we've got Cub Swanson who's top 10. He's been a mainstay at the featherweight division. Could this be another instance where potentially a young upstart gets the upset over the top 10 guy?
Cub Swanson is he's been around for a while. He's not old, but he was one of those guys who is like a relevant name at 23 years old in the WEC. Is already getting a lot of attention. He's had pretty consistent performances, I would say. Like, I mean, we saw the Doo Ho Choi fight was the young up and comer who's had all this upside talent promise, and then Cub Swanson, he figured out what he couldn't do. He couldn't fight backwards. Cub Swanson took great advantage of it. Has skills. He can do it all. Is what I think the great thing about Cub Swanson. Maybe not his wrestling game per se, but on the ground he's amazing, and then on the feet he could fight it close. He could fight at range. He can throw. He could kick. So it's going to test Burgos in every way, but I also wonder that the motivation is going to be there for Cub Swanson. Somebody who was so close to fighting for gold so many times, and now he's kind of relegated to gatekeeper status. I'm just waiting for him to kind of fall off a cliff, so to speak, in terms of motivation and performance, but we haven't seen it yet. I would favor Burgos. I like the young up-and-comer here just on that factor alone, but, man, Cub Swanson is Cub Swanson for a reason. He's a dangerous, dangerous dude.
All right, I think this might be a chance for Burgos to do this. I think we're going to kind of see the same thing because Swanson, he lost to, Frankie Edgar. It's Frankie Edgar. We get it. He lost to Ortega. Ortega was the hype train, you know what I'm saying? So nothing there, but then he lost to Moicano. He's on a 3-fight skid right now. So I think Luber hit it right on the head where his motivation might not be there anymore. So I think we might pretty much see the same fight with Shane taking over and showing that, hey, the new breed is here, the new guys are here, old people, older generation kind of get out of our way. I think we're going to kind of see that in this fight. Really hard to vote against Cub Swanson, though, because he's still a dog. He's got so many ways to win. But I think Shane's going to, probably by decision maybe, but he's probably going to show that Cub Swanson's old generation.
Yeah, but while we're talking about the featherweight division, I feel it's appropriate to throw another piece of news at you. Did you guys see that Moicano and Korean Zombie has been booked for UFC Greenville?
Yes.
Crazy.
What a fight.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be badass, man. Every time we see Korean Zombie in there, it's going to be one to watch. And, man, I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. I think this is actually a very, very dangerous Moicano. Because it's Korean Zombie, man. He's ranked number 13. Moicano's number 5. That's a heck of a bet right there. Because if Zombie ends up winning, Moicano's about to drop in the rankings. So I'm excited for the fight, though. Really, really hyped up for that. Always hyped when you see Chance Sung-jung out there.
Yeah, and what I like about the fight for KZ, even though I believe Moicano will be the favorite, is in Moicano's last fight against Jose Aldo, people really thought Moicano was a world beater. Really, his skill set was going to be untouchable. But no, he has a great jab, fights great at range, and of course his ground game's extremely dangerous. Nobody wants to go to the ground with Moicano. KZ doesn't want to go to the ground with Moicano, but you can beat him by pressuring into his through his jab, getting inside the range of that jab. And KZ is the guy that's not going to be scared to eat a jab to get another shot off. So I think stylistically, KZ has a great chance. Well, it'll be interesting to see how the betting lines play out and all those kinds of things. But yeah, I like this fight a lot. It's a great chance. Like you said, KZ's ranked 13th, but let's be real. He is not the 13th best featherweight in the UFC. No. He's much better than that. He's better than a lot of guys ranked ahead of him. He's a great fighter, and that the last loss was a heartbreaker to Yair Rodriguez. So I'd love to see KZ back at it and getting a win.
What a memorable fight that was, though. Arguably one of the best fights in recent memory. An incredible fight. But are there any other fights on this card that you guys are looking forward to on this Ottawa card?
I'm a little interested in the Walt Harris fight, but just because Walt Harris is Walt Harris, I love Walt Harris. That's the only other thing. I looked at the prelims and I still don't know. I might just do a fight companion for the last 3 and call it good. But I'm interested for this Walt Harris fight because he's going to it's really going to show kind of like how he's going to be against a really good grappler because Walt Harris has won all of his fights by KO. Like, that's ridiculous. And this dude that he's fighting is beat 50% of his fights are either by KO or either by submission. So it's really going to be a good time to see how Walt Harris actually is on the ground.
Yeah, that's the one that stood out for me for the same reason. Walt Harris, awesome fighter to watch. One of those, I hate the term freak show, but it's almost a freak show because he's just so huge, such a giant dude, and he moves very well for a guy his size. So he's always exciting. And a heavyweight division, a good heavyweight fight is really, it's a very unique aspect of MMA. You don't see any other divisions, maybe light heavyweight occasionally, but that. And then Andrew Sanchez at one point was considered something of a prospect. He had a couple decent wins. He has a win over Khalil Roundtree, who, we've seen Khalil Roundtree is emerging as one of the better prospects at 205. Different fighter back then, for sure, Roundtree was. But Sanchez, great wrestler, fresh-faced at middleweight. If you could get a win here, you could start building up a bit of a reputation and be a solid member of the roster. But that's now we're kind of reaching for interesting points. I think, like Legacy said, this is the top 3 is the strength of it. But I'll catch the Walt Harris fight. I'll see how that goes.
Yeah. And we're all addicts. We're gonna watch every fight anyway, regardless of who's on there, if we know them or not. And this is the opportunity where you see a lot of guys who are scrapping. Maybe they're unknown, but they're looking to be known after this fight. I mean, they're gonna be on ESPN Plus, and I mean they're gonna be in front of a large audience. So I mean they're gonna go for it, and we're gonna be watching for sure. We're gonna be watching the whole time. I think I had something else for you guys. Let me see if I can pull it up. Oh yeah. Last thing I wanted to ask was, do you know what's up with the Dana White Ariel Helwani beef? Like, why does Dana White hate him so much?
I believe it was some leaked information that Ariel sent out. I don't know what it was. I used to know. I heard it the other day on Below the Belt, the Brendan Schaub thing, and I don't remember what it was. Go ahead, Luber. I know you're trying to get on this.
Yeah, it was actually the man that we started the show with, Brock Lesnar, when he made his return. It was announced he's going to come up back to UFC 200. This is really, I mean, he had never really gotten along with Ariel before that. I think personality-wise, Ariel Helwani is an instigator, and he would use Dana White as a vehicle for that. He'd ask Dana White questions that Dana's like, I'm not going to answer that. You idiot. You're going to just get me in trouble no matter what I say. So no, I stop asking me these questions, and you know how Dana is. But yeah, so the to play out how this, so they didn't like each other. UFC 200, Brock Lesnar's coming back. Ariel leaks it 2 hours before the UFC puts on this like custom promo where they're hyping up UFC 200. At the very end of the video, Brock Lesnar's face shows and he punches the camera, and people are supposed to pop. It's supposed to be a great, incredible moment for the fans, and we had found out about it on Twitter from Ariel Helwani a few hours before. I actually, man, I don't want to shit on Ariel Helwani, but I was a little frustrated with it too. So what had happened after this, Dana White took away his credentials, took away the entire website that Ariel worked for at the time, their credentials. So there's a photographer who was very famous, Luke Thomas. He was also working for that website. His credentials were stripped. So it was a pretty big reaction to this. And then Ariel Helwani went on a show. He actually cried when Dana White made fun of him for crying, because this is a career ruiner. He relies on UFC interviews, getting these questions and stuff like that. It was a huge blow to him. And this is when Ariel Helwani's show was popping off. He was getting tons of views, tons of amazing fighters, interviews all the time. So it was a pretty big story. They've smoothed things out. You got to have good media relations as an organization like the UFC, and Ariel has a lot of pull in that way. But that is the heart of the beef, I think, was that one incident.
Yeah, and it was just rough because I think even though the beef between them before this entire thing, I believe I even said Ariel was the best MMA reporter out there. You know what I'm saying? Even if he didn't like him, I know that was something that Dana White said, and like you said, he was getting popular. And I think still, even now after this entire thing, people, for a lot of the new casual fans, because a lot of people came in after Ariel Helwani. So I think he's having a hard time getting speed up. So I think Dana White really ruined his career there. And not ruined it, but definitely slowed it down and got a lot of setbacks. But I think the beef just needs to stop, bro. Ariel Helwani, I listen to all of his tweets. I go to, like, if I want to know news, I go to him like, oh, that's what's popping. Good to go. So, but I just need the beef just needs to stop. That's what I think.
Yeah, it's a little bit silly. And I did see that video on YouTube of Ariel crying, and I was like, why is he crying? Because Dana White says something bad about him. Like, what is going on? You know. But yeah, I just had to know. I was super curious, and yeah, just popped in the top of my head. But yeah, do you guys have anything else you want to add? Anything you want to say?
In terms of MMA news, there wasn't a whole lot going on, I don't think, outside of that. But I think one thing that's exciting for me, I'm about to buy tickets to UFC Robbie Lawler, Tyron Woodley tomorrow. I don't know why I had to say that, but I am excited. So
hey, that is exciting, man. You should do the meet and greet. You know, hopefully you get to meet some pretty badass fighters. Did you see Woodley said he deserves a title fight if he beats Robbie Lawler?
I did see that. I think I don't know. The welterweight division is kind of a mess too now. This whole Anthony Pettis thing. I think it's gonna be hard to give Woodley a rematch after the Kamaru Usman fight though, just because that was so one-sided. I think Woodley if he beats Robbie Lawler, definitely puts him back in the title talk. Give him one more fight, he wins that, then give him the title shot. I think that's what it's going to take for Woodley. It's going to be a long road back to him for the title though, because Dana White's disgust for Woodley, which I think is kind of unfair. I mean, let's be honest. You know, I mean, he's one of the best welterweights out there, and he's getting a lot of hate, and it's going to be hard for him to get back to the title. So, but I'm interested in this fight. I think him beating Robbie though puts him back in the talks for a title shot though.
Talks for a title shot's a good way to put it. I think with Askren, and then it's. I don't know if I buy it, and if I don't buy it, are the casual fans buying it? We just gotta. It depends how they fight too. Is it a dominant performance? Are they jumping around? Are they looking like the best shape they've been in their life? There's a lot of factors that go into it. I don't like that Woodley feels entitled though. I don't think it's the right attitude, and I think that if you're saying that, maybe you're overlooking Robbie Lawler, and if you're overlooking Robbie Lawler, it is a dangerous game you're playing. So I question the mentality of Tyron Woodley. He's in a tough spot, but he's got a chance to prove us all wrong. So we'll see.
Does he have like somewhat of a right to kind of overlook Robbie Lawler a little bit, considering that he beat him already?
I mean, yes, but at the same time, you're going in a fist fight with Robbie Lawler. That's the best way I'm going to put it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like that's one of the most dangerous guys in the sport to try to brawl with. I don't think Willie's going to try to brawl with him, but with Robbie, it takes one shot, man. I thought he killed Askren in there for a little bit.
I mean, he dropped him on his fucking neck.
Yeah, I know, dropped him on his neck and was loading bombs. So I don't. Is it a winnable fight for Woodley? 100%. Mm-hmm. Is this a fight to overlook, though?
No.
I mean, look at the intensity of Robbie Lawler in his last fight against Askren when he walked out. I got goosebumps. I was like, we haven't seen this in a few fights. So if you overlook Robbie Lawler with this kind of with the mentality he's having right now, that might be one of the worst things you could do.
Yeah, and I just feel like I could see it playing out in my head where Woodley comes out a little flat, Robbie Lawler takes it to him, and it's very one-sided in favor of Robbie Lawler. I when we get to it, we'll make official predictions and everything. It just seems like just such a when you hear these kind of tidbits, it's scary, man. You don't want to, even if you've earned the right to overlook Robbie Lawler, you don't want to exercise that right. Keep it in your back pocket and take this fight seriously, because man, that guy's gonna hit you very hard if you let him.
Yeah, he might drop you on your fucking neck. So you never know what you're gonna get from Robbie Lawler. But yeah, so I think that wraps it up for us. You guys plug your Twitch, whatever you got.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so mine's simple, guys. Same as always. Twitch.tv/LuberLibre. We'll be watching, at least like we said, the last few fights this weekend. Fight companions, UFC 3 gameplay. It's a good time, so come by, say hi, talk MMA. I like hanging out with you guys.
Awesome. And for me, kind of same thing with Luber a little bit. Twitch.tv/Unnoticed Legacy. I also have a YouTube. Just put Unnoticed in. I'm the only one out there. You're going to find me. So same thing with Luber, though. I do UFC 3 gameplay. I do play some other games on stream, and my Twitch is pretty much the exact same thing as my YouTube. So yeah, come check me out, hopefully.
Yes, check out the podcast. We talk wrestling. We talk other sports news, particularly the NBA. You can always catch us on wrestlingwithheat.podbean.com, Google Play, iTunes, etc., wherever you get your podcasts. Yeah, thank you guys for doing this, man. It was a good talk. I really liked the 3-man show. It was. I think we should do this more often.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I liked it, man. It was a really good opportunity. I appreciate it.
All right, so we'll see you guys next week.
Sounds